Fire alarm.
Yeah, like three and six. Yeah.
There's just, we can see him down there all the time.
We don't have.
Well, I was there the day they did it.
I call the meeting of May 6, 2024 to order at 6:01 PM. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Potato,
She's absent.
Bowman,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Clariget,
Here.
Cole. Here. Alfers.
Here.
You, Councilmember Botetto is absent. Is there a motion to excuse her from tonight's meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Council Member Potato.
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Elfers. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. Right,
Mayor, could we get a vote on that?
yes, I'm coming. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Passes. 100%. Okay, so tonight, before we begin, I want to remind everybody in the audience attending this evening's meeting in person that the meeting is being recorded right up above you, and that this room is equipped with microphones throughout that will pick up any talking and any talking that you try to even whisper, it will pick it up. So please refrain from having sidebar discussions that you do not wish for everybody else to hear, so. And now, exciting thing, we have the oath of office for our newest council member, if he passes this test.
Yes.
Greg Ranky.
Yeah. Survive the swearing in.
Ready for this?
Yes, so.
Right. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I
I, Greg Rinke,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United
and
States
laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of
of
Washington
the state of Washington
and all local ordinances
and all local ordinances,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
diligently and impartially,
diligently and impartially
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of council member
of the office of council member
for the city of Sumner,
for the city of Sumner
in and for Pierce County, Washington,
in and for County, Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law.
as such duties are prescribed by law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. We have a proclamation, Peace Officers Memorial Week. I call on Police Chief Brad Maricki.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Congratulations, and Councilmember Rinke. Before I do read the proclamation, I'd like to give you all just a brief background. So in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. This was established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962. And National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. Since the very first recorded death of a law enforcement officer in 1786, there are currently 24,067 law enforcement officers in the United States that have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed or died in the line of duty. Their names are memorialized on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Now, whereas the law enforcement officers play an essential role in ensuring our safety and in safeguarding our rights and freedoms, and whereas our officers partner with citizens to keep our community as safe as possible by enforcing traffic laws, proactive policing, and forming neighborhood groups, and whereas when an unsafe situation does arise, our officers are the first to respond and provide assistance, often at great risk to their own personal safety. And whereas Sumner police officers continue to face increased danger, both seen and unseen, and scrutiny in the performance of their official duties. And whereas our officers recognize their duty is to serve our citizens by safeguarding life and property and protecting them against violence, disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas in 2023, last year, your Sumner police officers responded to over 14,530 calls for service. They arrested 166 suspects accused of criminal offenses, made 1,686 traffic stops, removed 18 impaired drivers from our roadways, and provided needed security and property protection, conducting 1,366 security checks throughout Sumner. And whereas the Congress and President of the United States has established May 15th, 2024 as National Police Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. Now therefore, the city of Sumner proclaims May 15th, 2024 as Police Officer Memorial Day, and the week of May 12th through the 18th is National Police Week. In the city of Sumner, and we urge all residents to mark this occasion with appropriate ceremonies commemorating police officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion have collectively preserved our rights and securities. And it's dated the 6th day of May, 2024, signed by Honorable Mayor Kathy Ayton. Further, I'd like to thank you all so very much for your steadfast support and invite you to the Pierce County Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, which will be held this Thursday, May 9th, 6 p.m. at Bethany Baptist Church, South Hill, Puyallup, next to Best Western. Yeah, this particularly honors the Pierce County law enforcement officers, sheriffs, deputies, troopers, marshals, and officers that have gave the ultimate sacrifice serving Pierce County residents. So I invite you there, and thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
Item number 1, approval of the checks and electronic payments in the amount of $2,279,227.35. Item number 2, resolution number 1681, interlocal agreement with Rainier Cable Commission. Item number 3, approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting of April 15th, the special council meeting and study session of April 22nd, 2024.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Cole, would you please make a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I move to adopt the consent agenda of May 6, 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. Has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Would any council member wish to remove an item? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to a public hearing. Tonight, we're having a public hearing on the following 2024 to 2030 Parks and Trails Plan. I will open the hearing at 6:10 PM. And I will call on Community Service Director Derek Berry.
Looks like it's already on. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here tonight. Gonna go ahead and share my screen so that it gets disabled. All right, looks like it's working now. So Derek Berry, Community Services Manager for the City of Sumner. Thanks for having me tonight. This public hearing, like you said, is on the 2024 through 2030 Parks and Trail Plan. There we go. Looks like it's finally advancing. So what is a Parks and Trails Plan and why should we have one? A Parks and Trails Plan contains the community's long-range vision for its parks and trails and system. It helps guide the development and management of our system. This plan is updated every 6 years and envisions the parks, trails, and parks and trails. It also helps us maintain eligibility through Recreation and Conservation Office. The main contents include everything you see here. Summary introduction, existing conditions, public input, goals and objectives, demand and needs analysis, capital improvement program, plan implementation, and a whole lot of appendices. The process has included several steps. Most recently, we were updated on the, I think it was the 25th of March, where we had a study session discussing a lot more of these slides. We've also had online surveys, kickoff, interactive surveys, Maptionaires, where we could put ideas and concepts on our parks and trails. We had pop-up in the park, met with early act students at Daffodil Valley and Maple Lawn. We still have our Sumner Connects page active, and we recently have been getting comments on there. We obviously have our social media as well. And I wanted to open up to you if you have any questions before the public hearing begins.
Any questions for him? No, no, you're good.
And I provided a edited version of what was in the packet. There was a few typos in the comments from the original Parks and Trail Plan that went out for review. And so that's a summary of those. And if any of you want them, they're up here. So that's about it.
Thank you, Derek. Are you done?
Yep.
All right, any comment from the public? I have a couple signed up here for Julie Norris. Come on up and state your name and address there and your comment.
This is on, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Julie Norris, Sumner resident. I live on Churbank Avenue. I'm reading from some notes that I wrote. They're my own words. Regarding Loyalty Park and Rainier View Park. I live adjacent to Loyalty Park and can often hear the joyful sounds of kids that play in the park. The continued maintenance and upgrades to playground equipment there has been and is money well spent. I extend those same thoughts to Rainier View Park. It's nice to see the upgraded equipment, and the addition of the covered court will enable kids and others to enjoy the park throughout the year. I fully support these types of improvements in our parks. The Sumner Link Trail. I've resided in Sumner for just over 30 years. And early on, I used to ride my bike out the road where all the warehouses are now. And back then you could ride over the bridge, just past the library, go past the rhubarb field where the trucks are, turn where the existing shop is, the city shop, and have a nice ride past all the turf farms and then wind all the way up to Pacific. But those days are long past. It's too dangerous to ride that street now. And with all the housing being built in town, I think the need for and use of the trail will only increase. So I'm grateful to staff and councils through the years that had the foresight to set the trail up. Support for the trail system should continue. Lucy Ryan Park. Time will tell what happens with the park. I'm not Sure, the house can be saved because of the cost, but in the event demolition proceeds, I think it'd be nice to have the park set up as a formal garden. So people can shop and have a coffee and go sit down in a nice area. And perhaps some items could be retained and reused. We visited a library in Utah that they had to demolish one of their Carnegie Library, and they used the door for their special collections. And so there might be options. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Nick Bierman.
All right, so I do want to also talk about the Parks and Trails plan, and particularly last week, Thursday, May 2nd, the Planning Commission accepted the latest revisions to the Parks and Trails plan, which is what you see in the printed document.
Nick, before you get going, could I have you state your name and address for the
Oh,
record?
yes, sorry. Yeah, Nick Bierman, Parker Road East here in Sumner.
Thank you.
So last week on Thursday, May 2nd, the Planning Commission accepted the latest revisions to the Parks and Trails plan. And these changes will come before City Council for a vote later this month, I believe. And I do want to commend the Parks and Trails Commission, the Planning Commission, and also Derek Berry for taking into account recent developments regarding the Ryan House, especially acknowledging the decision in court last month that demolition cannot proceed until the comprehensive plan is amended. And it is important to note that the current version of the Parks Plan affirms that the demolition cannot proceed until 2025 at the earliest. So that does give us a few more months this year to continue to work toward solutions to preserving the Ryan House. The city has not yet finished the process of receiving public input that the judge ordered, and as a result, cannot get approval yet to finalize demolition of the Ryan House. So that's the process that we're working on this year, is to continue to amend the comprehensive plan, and Parks and Trails plan is part of it. I do have a question that the judge's order was to amend the comprehensive plan, not to amend the Parks and Trails plan. So maybe there's a little bit of confusion in my mind about why we're focusing on amending the Parks and Trails plan right now and not just the comprehensive plan. But that's just maybe some lingering confusion in my mind. So as we go through this process, maybe that'll be sorted out as well. So I'll leave it at that, and then my other comments will be for later.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else like to speak on the Parks and Trails? Mr. Adams.
Randall Adams, 63rd Street Court East. Regarding the Parks Plan, the thing that I would like to see or to request that as we go through these years and we're looking at the different monies that we're spending, that we get specific itemization of how many of the great grants that we get from that our staff creates for us versus how much is coming out of general funds. Because that's not clearly stated anywhere. And I think that would be beneficial to the council when you're making your decisions as to how to spend those funds. Because as we all know, the general fund is really tight right now. So let's know where those funds are going to go to in advance. That's all.
Thank you. Also signed up tonight, Melissa Fox.
Hello, my name is Melissa Fox. I live at 16913 8th Avenue East in Spanaway, Washington. I keep coming here because I'm part of the Woolery family, and so Sumner is very important to me. And specifically, I'm here tonight to support the Save the Ryan House. I understand and appreciate that there's a pause in demolition on it. I'm here to ask that the comprehensive plan go a step further to incorporate some specific wording that the city will work with the Sumner Historical Society and the Save the Ryan House group and those type organizations to pursue a restoration. To do so would require the city and citizens working together in order to secure grants and other sources of funding that are available for important historical sites. Over many city council meetings, individuals have come forward to help to locate funding, but it's going to require the city to be involved formally to get those. I think it would be a win-win situation because it would bring the public and the city council together in seeking out a resolution on this, or actually future of it. But something I'm concerned about is that many people seem to be under the impression that the city would be paying fully for the preservation and restoration for the house, and that it hasn't really been out there so much that there's funding from grants and things like that that wouldn't come directly from the city for the full restoration. And I wanted to mention that this effort isn't just benefiting Sumner, but it's significant to the whole state of Washington. Our pioneer heritage is integral to how our ancestors came here. And the Meeker Mansion's been restored and they host community events, which is really important to just having a tight community and feeling like you belong. And these things bring people together. It's been brought up many times that it can't be expressed enough. Once a historical building is gone, it's gone. And no plaque, video, or mural can possibly replace the actual thing. So please accept the help from the community to move forward with a sound plan for restoration, not demolition of the Ryan House. I really believe that Sumner will pull together and be a stronger community with a go-forward plan of working together. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have anybody that wants to speak on the parks and trails? This is for the parks and trails. It's for parks and trails.
That includes the Ryan House.
Parks and trails.
It's part of it.
Tina Burnett, 228 Sumner Avenue here in Sumner. I just wanted to echo that we want to save the Ryan House. I really appreciate the pause that you've given us, which gives us some time. But we as citizens can't apply for the grants. We need the city to work with us to apply for grants and actively work to get the money. If at the end of the day, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it won't work if the city council doesn't work with us to save the Ryan House. So you need to make an honest effort to apply for the grants. We'll go out there and search for them if need be, but we need you to just make an honest effort to see what happens and to see if we can get the grants that you handed back, if we can get them again or other grants. I just want to emphasize that it really needs to be a partnership to make this work. And we really need to save the heritage, not see historical buildings and gazebos and everything else torn down because they're old. I'm old. I don't want to be torn down. So thank you.
Okay, okay, last try for Parks and Trails Plan. This is for the Parks and Trails Plan. Derek, come on out.
Two things to clarify for you real quick. I forgot to mention that we did receive 2 comments electronically that will be in the minutes for this meeting. And then want to clarify also that the Parks and Trails Plan is actually part of the comprehensive plan. So.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:25. Moving on to public comments. Did we receive any, Michelle?
Just those that are signed up, Mayor.
Okay, Joshua Fox. Come on up.
Mayor, would you like me to read the rules?
Excuse me?
Would you like me to read the rules?
The rules, yes, please. Would you read the rules?
This is a time for you to address the mayor and the council as a whole regarding items that are not on the agenda. When the mayor calls your name, please approach the podium. If you're participating via Zoom, use the raise your hand or telephonically press *9. Before you begin your remarks, please state your name and address or city in which you reside for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. And as a reminder, public comment is not a time for the public comment is a time for the council to hear you and not a time to engage in back and forth. If you have a specific question, the mayor may direct you to the appropriate staff member for further discussion.
Josh Fox, not in Puyallup, Washington, not in any way related to Melissa.
How do you know?
I work in the Sumner Industrial Parks, and I wanted to bring attention to the fact that there's multiple semis along 142 Avenue East that park in the turn lane. It makes egress difficult from, business to business. It's just something that I would like to bring to your attention, and I hope to have, a police presence there potentially, just patrolling. It's about 4:30 in the morning when I arrive at work. And it's only occasional. So but when it does happen, it's very difficult. That's all I had to say. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody in the audience or on Zoom have anything they would like to say for anything not on the agenda? Mr. Bierman.
Okay, so, again, Nick Bierman,
Turn the mic on, please.
green is on? Okay, that's going, okay. Nick Bierman, Parker Road East, here in Sumner. I do want to draw attention to another issue surrounding the Pierce County Court decision in favor of the Save Our Sumner Committee that was handed down a couple of months ago. This issue directly relates to the city council's decision last September regarding the demolition of the Ryan House. My understanding is that the city council decision to demolish the Ryan House is treated as an order that the city must follow to fruition. And as long as that order is standing, then the city will continue to move toward demolition. And I see many new faces on city council that were not present here when that decision was handed down. So my suggestion is, and I urge city council members who are new to review all the information that's presented to you, consider all the public comments that have been offered over the past few months, and the current sentiment going forward regarding the Ryan House. And take this all into account and either consider a new action by city council or changing the previous decision by city council so that we can have the city's cooperation going forward in regards to acquiring funding and working to preserve the Ryan House as it is, with the cooperation of the city and the fact that the city is the steward, the city is the owner of the property. The city can apply for the grants that we find, as others have mentioned. The city has to do all that work, and as the members of the city council who represent us as citizens, we would like to see the cooperation begin with city council so that we can all work together going forward. That would be the best way, in my view, to proceed regarding the Ryan House. All of the work that can be done to secure the funding won't mean anything if we don't have the city's cooperation, since us as private citizens do not own the house. So that's what I'm urging today, is that consider the fact that you are the owners, you are the stewards, and at the city council can help us change course and look toward finding funding for the future.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience have something to say, not on the agenda? Randall Adams.
Thanks. Randall Adams, 63rd Street, Court East. I'll try to be quick because I can't compete with what's going to come next. Even in the findings, from the findings of fact and conclusion of law settlement agreed to with the city, the comp plan amendment process requires early and continuous public involvement, not just during the preparation of the original document plan, and public participation is one of the mandatory GMA's mandatory planning goals. This process must allow for open discussion. The agency must also provide response to public comment. This is to be done in the historic and cultural resources element of the comp plan, not backdoored through the parks and the parks elements of the park plan that aren't complying with this. I'd like to now segue away and to remind us how privileged we are to be here today as we are standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, be those founders of our city, our officers, our firefighters, or our soldiers who fought for this life we get to enjoy. I present to you an incredibly joyful family member, Jamie Mann, who gained her heavenly wings 2 weeks ago. She made sure to work on the day that our veterans special flights to Washington, D.C. every year so that she could honor them appropriately. Visualize her standing at the podium of the loading gate, looking out at the area full of veterans and their families. Jamie wanted to make sure that they knew our love and appreciation for them. With that, I'll give you a joyful memory like those that Jamie spread everywhere else. Let's try that again. Boy, this is a mess. Now you know why I don't do these things. You bring us at me off.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else in the audience? Seeing none, we move down to new business ordinance number 2885, transportation impact fees, and I call Councilmember Clerget. Did you have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance number 2885, transportation impact fees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Elfers. We call on Public Works Director Michael Kosa.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Michael Kosa, the Public Works Director, and get my presentation. Thank you.
Here to talk about our 2024 transportation impact fee program update. And we've talked about this once before in study session, so this is an abbreviated version of that. But we, the ordinance prepared, and that was in the packet for tonight. So update, background on impact fees. What are they? They are fees that are paid by property developers, which are residential, commercial, or industrial property developers, offsetting the transportation impact of the new development that they're constructing. We update them every 3 to 5 years, and typically in line with the comprehensive plan update, which is right now. Who pays and how? So the property developers are those who pay when they're picking up their actual building permit for construction. Also, if there's someone doing commercial or industrial tenant improvements, so kind of coming into a building that had been previously occupied, but when they're completing those improvements, and if there's a change in their use, they may be subject to traffic impact fees as well. And those fees are assessed based on the net PM peak hour trips that new site generates. And that's determined by the national standard, the Trip Generation Manual put out by ITE. What do they fund? They fund our capacity improvements on public facilities. So this is new lanes of travel, new traffic signals or intersection improvements. There's very restricted to basically new infrastructure that adds capacity. Additionally, last year, the legislature allowed bicycle and pedestrian commuting facilities to be included in the capacity improvements that you could use these funds for. So the roadmap had this slide last time, but we have gotten to the end of the road, per se. We're at the recommended code revision based on all the input, so that's the council action. But we went through all those other steps of reviewing the policy, updating our project list, determining the rates, and getting input from council. This is the slide you might remember. It is the PM peak trip rate. We had 3 options that we described. Option 1 was based on just vehicular projects that didn't account for any of the new non-motorized projects that we could be assessing fees based off of. Option 2 was 100% of the TIF commitment for the vehicular projects and non-motorized projects. And option 3 was kind of a middle ground where we said, all right, we'll do all of the vehicular projects and most of the non-motorized projects and roll that into the model for determining how much a trip is worth in a permit fee environment. So it wasn't 100% either way, but when we kind of polled people's opinions, they were leaning toward option 3. I took this to Public Works Committee for the ordinance adoption, and Public Works Committee actually preferred option 2. So that is a change from the last time you've seen this. And instead of the 6490, which is kind of the third one down on the option 3, the recommended due passed option was the 7452. So that's about $7,500 for a new PM peak trip generated by a development. So that's kind of what progressed. So difference from what you saw before. Nearby TIF fees from other jurisdictions. So that red line is the state average. Right now we're at 3436 averaged out. And we're proposing the 7452. We do expect with the new multimodal projects that other municipalities will be significantly raising their rates to account for additional potential project funds for those. But we're also not the highest on that chart. There's others that are above us and some that are close and some that are quite a bit lower. So it depends. So a summary of the ordinance. If you read through the actual text, we are looking at adopting the 11th edition of the Trip Generation Manual. It was the 10th edition, so better science and knowledge there with the the newer manual. We're looking at eliminating that 3-district model. Originally, we had those 3 districts that you see in the map. We talked it through and staff recommended and council gave us the general thought that will really a citywide district that everyone pays the same was appropriate. We had an update to our project list, as I talked about, and then we updated our per trip fee based on the transportation plan and the comp plan that we've been working on, based on all the land use and zoning changes. So the only other piece that I haven't mentioned yet was the effective date. Originally, we were talking about July 1st, but as this ordinance went through legal and other input, it really, some of it is dependent on our comp plan. So we moved that date back so that we actually make sure all of our comp plan and our transportation plan is fully adopted by the time the fee change goes into effect. So we bumped that back to January 1st. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. First, any comments from the public on this? Seeing none? No? Any comments from the council?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowman.
Thank you. So thank you, Michael, very much for taking into account all of the input we gave you and actually hearing and allowing us to have the dialogue. I think it works out much better for the citizens and the businesses of the city. And it makes perfect sense that it be pushed back into, out to January. So thank you for doing that.
Councilmember Elfers.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I just wanted to clarify. So who pays the traffic impact fees?
Typically, it's developers as they're coming in when they're going and getting their building permit, they're going to pick up their document, their permit to start their actual development. That would be assessed at that time. On a occasion, it could be delayed, but usually not past the end of the construction of the project.
Okay. So did normal, like Sumner residents pay these costs?
No, a regular resident wouldn't see any of these costs, only if they're developing their site for, putting a larger, not even a larger house, but, an actual like change of use, like going to like a, different style of building, like a multi. Yeah, the regular resident wouldn't see the cost like this ever.
And you said this is for the use of just improving like traffic improvements, so street improvements, things like that, and trails as well?
It covers that. It covers it can cover like sidewalk gaps as well. So it's funds that could go to some sidewalk gap projects, any sort of trail enhancement projects, any sort of projects that really just expands the capacity of the roadway.
Okay. And if we don't fund this stuff through traffic impact fees, where does the money come from for those types of improvements?
Typically, we would be looking for grants, but general fund is clearly one of the options for, improving parks, trails, and that there aren't a lot of sources. This is one of the sources that can be used, especially being as restrictive as it is to really offsetting development impacts essentially. Those you get another 1,000 or 2,000 houses or something or whatever it happens to be. That's an impact on the community and adds traffic to the roadways. So it's a payment to offset that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Just I think traffic is probably one of the things that comes up every time somebody says, what do they want to see better in Sumner? And I think this is a great solution that wouldn't impact regular citizens. It doesn't affect their taxes, and it directly covers the cost is covered through new projects. So I think it's a good way to keep our tax base down in some ways, even though it is a fee increase. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Andy. Anybody else? Councilmember Bowman?
I'm good.
Anybody down here? You good?
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cole,
Yes.
Clairget,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ranky,
Yes.
Elfers,
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Okay, moving on to ordinance number 2886, amending Sumner Municipal Code, Chapter 2.100 Personnel Policies. Deputy Mayor Cole, would you like to make the motion?
I would, yes, I move to adopt ordinance number 2886, revising sections of Sumner Municipal Code, Chapter 2.100 Personnel Policies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. All right, I call on Administrative Services Director Jeff Steffens.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ordinance 2886 makes several minor changes to the personnel chapter of the Sumner Municipal Code, excuse me. These updates are necessary to reflect current city practice as well as changes in state law. Included in the ordinance is the requirement for employees to repay jury duty fees was waived, as well as a change in sick leave accrual for temporary employees was amended for employee and staff convenience. In addition, a maximum accrual was established for compensatory time to align with represented employee contracts. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Elfers.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Steffens. Does any of this affect any additional costs to the city?
There might be some slight minor costs, but nothing really to write home about.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor, would you like any
Oh.
comments?
Oh, how about the public? Does the public want to say anything on this? All right, so I guess right. Now, Michelle, could you please call the roll?
Elfers,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Clairget,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimous. Okay. Ordinance number 2839, amending Sumner Municipal Code 13.18 pre-treatment, and I will call on Andrea.
Good evening.
Oh, yes. Councilmember Elfers, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion, and then we'll let Andrea speak. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2839, amending Sumner Municipal Code chapters 13.16 and 13.18 pre-treatment regulations.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. And Andrea.
All right, good
This says
evening.
Johnstone.
Oh. Wow. Good
Do
evening,
not look
Mayor.
like Brian.
I don't. I am Andrea Hannigan, and I'm the pretreatment coordinator for the city of Sumner. And good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members, and congratulations and welcome, Councilmember Ranky. Tonight, I'm bringing to you, before you, new pretreatment regulations for adoption, because as you know, the city's been ordered by the state to develop and implement a fully delegated pretreatment program. So tonight, I just wanted to talk to you briefly about what it means to be a delegated pretreatment program. That process, our schedule, I'll give some highlights for the pretreatment regulations, and then we'll finish up with future council action. So just a little bit of background and history. In 1972, the Clean Water Act established requirements for local agencies like cities or municipal agencies to capture wastewater and build treatment facilities to treat it through the NPDES permitting system. They also included requirements for EPA to develop and implement a national pretreatment program. Congress initially delegated the responsibility to implement this program nationally to the EPA, and in 1986, EPA delegated that responsibility to the state of Washington. And in 2021, the city of Sumner's wastewater treatment plant was ordered to be delegated the responsibility for this program. So since 2021, we have been diligently following our compliance schedule that was issued in our new NPDES permit. And I've listed our achievements here. The next big item is the adoption of pretreatment regulations into our municipal code. This slide gives highlights of these regulations. They are compliant. They incorporate all state and federal ordinance requirements for a delegated pretreatment program. They also give the city the legal authority to implement the new pretreatment regulations. And finally, they apply to all generators of non-domestic wastewater that are connected to the wastewater treatment facility. So now we're here asking you to adopt these regulations into code, giving us the legal authority to implement this program. You'll see us later in the year, just through the normal budgeting process, asking you to support the program with funds for additional resources or staff. And then in 2025, as we move forward with implementation, we'll be asking for your support through awareness and support of the program within the local business community and citizens. This was short and sweet, and so I just wanted to open it up for questions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Let's take questions from the public first. How about that? Do we have any questions from the public on this? No? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Thank you again. Good presentation. A lot of, this is high level, but the detail you provided us a little bit back a few weeks ago was very good. So if I recall, this is an additional statement of work for the city, correct?
Yes.
So it's a new task that the city's been handed down.
Correct.
And it's when you say regulation, that means we have to do it. We're regulated by the federal government and the state of Washington.
Yes, it's a federal mandate that was included in our discharge permit that we were issued by the state of Washington at the treatment facility.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Elders.
Gotta have a couple questions. Do you know what the estimated cost is to implement this program?
Yeah, the estimated additional cost is, it's going to require probably one to two more FTEs. It has to be implemented on both service areas that are served by the treatment plant. So there's some cost there, but there will be cost sharing. I think that when we initially punched some numbers out of pocket, I think it was annually to maintain the program outside of staff costs, the overhead is probably, I don't want to misspeak, but 50 to 150, or $50,000, $200,000. And I will.
That's right.
Is
I'm just
is
looking
right?
for.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to misspeak. I went through all the numbers several times and.
That's right. I just wanted to get an estimate. So
thank you.
probably a couple $100,000 minimum to run the program.
Yeah.
And so this is mandated. And did you get is there any funding coming from the Washington State?
Yeah. So no, there are no opportunities of funding from the state, but however, we do have the opportunity to fund the program through permitting fees. So businesses can pay for the cost to treat their waste in lieu of treatment. And also there's going to be a substantial cost savings to the city citizens through the proper management and removal of these pollutants before they hit our system. So they're taking them out before it hits the treatment plant. So we don't have to pay the cost to remove it and either put it in the landfill or put it in our biosolids. So yeah, so it will see, we could see a lower concentrations of organics and pollutants going to the treatment plant, which could lower costs.
And when you say non-domestic, that means that it's mostly related to businesses? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's any source of wastewater that's generated through processes that aren't bathroom related, showers or residential laundry. Yeah. So, it could come through a house. you know, if someone starts a bakery at their house, that's a source of non-domestic wastewater, but otherwise it's usually from a commercial or industrial facility.
Got it. Okay, so just to clarify, so this is a mandate that is not funded, so the state is disburdening the city with additional costs that they're making us do stuff that we don't have any money, okay? And then the cost is gonna basically get passed along to mostly business owners through permit fees, and so the net benefit is the water gets cleaner, and then the negative is that we have to make a lot of more rules and the business has gotta pay for it.
Well, the rules are already there, where there's just gonna be a higher level of engagement. And right now the citizens are paying for it. So the businesses will be given the opportunity to be community partners and paid for the cost to treat, paid for the cost to do business.
Got it.
Instead of passing it along to citizens, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that.
Welcome to government. Okay, go ahead.
So just to capture it, it's basically a preventative maintenance program to
Absolutely.
ensure that we don't have a huge cost levied on us based on something getting in there from a local business, say like a machine shop or something like that.
Yes.
And they are the ones that have to make sure that it's cleaned up, and your group will potentially audit perhaps, you know, to make sure they're following the rules.
Yeah, we'll work with them to manage those pollutants, because, you know, even just the Sumner Row, the ability to make that, instead of having to haul our biosolids across the state, it's such a cost saving. And if we weren't able to do that because of these sources of metals that we can't keep out of our waste stream, gosh, it would be really, really expensive. So
Great.
preventive maintenance, that's a really good way of putting it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody down here? Are we good? All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ranky,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Alfers,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Farragut,
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous. All right, so that takes care of our business. We'll move on to reports. Councilmember Clerget, do you have a report tonight?
I just like, to welcome Greg Ringy to the council.
There we go. Councilmember Bowman.
I too would like to welcome Councilmember Ranky. We're gonna have to pick up our dress code, I can see. So we'll take that challenge on next week. I hear he's had some great tours and stuff that some of us are feeling slighted because we didn't get those. And so we do welcome him here. Thank you for the great presentations today. And again, the comments that we heard. We did have a great public forum Saturday at the YMCA. Mr. Adams did attend. We talked quite a bit about budgets. I felt it was very enlightening. It was very informative. I'd thank all the presenters and all the preparation time that went into that. We didn't quite get it all finished, but it was a great day. It was really good. So I enjoyed it and it was very educational. So thank you.
Councilmember Alfers.
We'll say it one more time real quick. Welcome, Councilmember Ranky. And I just wanted to give an update with on April 18th. I attended the Pierce County Regional Council, had a lot of really good updates. Pierce County update from Executive Bruce Danmeyer. I thought he summarized his state of the county, which he basically mentioned that there's been a lot of issues, which we all are aware of additional crime and drugs and housing costs. He mentioned those are the three top issues that are troubling here. And he said a lot of it's caused by well-meaning legislation in Olympia. And so he did encourage us to find ways to work to push back on that as much as we can. And I think that I just wanted to mention, the reason I mentioned the unfunded mandates is I think that is putting a burden on us. And I think I'm gonna try to mention that when we come up with those in council, so that we can just be aware that some of the stuff we're doing is really mandated by the state. Second thing we got was an update from Pierce County Sheriff Ed Troyer. Talked about the prison system, and there's a lot of problems in the prison system right now too. He said 200 of the 300 staff prison positions were vacant in 2022. And so they've had a really big issue with staffing at the Pierce County corrections facilities. And so that's been a big deal. They filled 43 of the positions in 2023. So that was really positive, but it just shows you that we have some issues with with things in the prison system and in other parts of the county and the state as well. So, and then they also did an update from the superintendent, Lance Goodpaster, with the Franklin Pierce School District on the McCleary decision update. And one of the things he mentioned was they're having a continual issue with the McCleary decision. And so what's happening is the state funding is really funding a limited number of FTEs or employees for certain types of things. And it's never really covered the cost of the school employees. So the amount that they cover is mandated by the McCleary decision, and those generally don't reflect the amounts of staff that the school needs to run efficiently. And so what's happening is the school districts are continuing to come out and ask for levies, which we've seen as well because of that. And then the legislative update from a consulting group, they just mentioned that there's 1,200 bills that went through this year. That's a big number of bills. 386 were signed. And I thought the interesting thing was we hear a lot of bad news. This is kind of a positive note. 96% of those had bipartisan support. And then 81% of them had the bipartisan support with over 31 Republicans. So the minority group had quite a few people. So out of the bills that passed that were most of them had bipartisan support. So there's still some not great bills coming out of Washington or Olympia, but really there's a lot of good news too. And I think we need to remember that there's a lot of good things happening in addition to some of the negatives. So that was a pretty good update from all those folks, and I appreciated hearing that, and I hope to hear better updates in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
I'll also have to welcome our newest council member. And I can tell you that he already promised me that he was not going to dress like this next week, so. It's on the record. So, yes. Okay, so just really a quick update. There was a Finance and Personnel Committee meeting on April 18th. And so we all do get the minutes, but I just wanted to give sort of a brief summary of what happened at that meeting. A selection of chair was conducted. I actually am chair of that committee, and we agreed on a date and time for that committee. And we also discussed a couple of ordinances, one that's on the agenda tonight relating to the personnel policies that we just voted on a little bit earlier, as well as on the interlocal agreement with the Rainier Cable Commission. And the last thing we discussed was the ordinance about the Public Works Trust Fund. And it was one that we actually had visited before because it was, we need an additional $330,000 because this bid came in a little bit higher than what was anticipated. So that was pretty much it for that particular committee meeting. We have our typical sales tax reports as well as updates on our any recruitment and negotiations. So that was it, and I want to give an update for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Ranky.
Thank you. I will say a few words, being the new guy, I guess. I have to thank all my other council members that appointed me to this position. I do appreciate it. I am very vested in the city. I've been here over 42 years. Actually, 42 years ago, I lived in this building. So I was a resident firefighter as a 19-year-old kid. And these were the bays going out. My bedroom was upstairs. Fell in love with the city, fell in love with the fire service. So did 35 years, 22 with Sumner and 13 with Eastridge. Raised 3 kids in town, all went through the school district. Most of them had Mr. Brown as a teacher. I'm very much involved, invested into the city, and I appreciate you guys appointing me to, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you and the citizens, community in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Nothing tonight, but a very big welcome to Greg.
City Administrator Jason Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief report tonight. First off, at next week's study session, you'll have one more look at the Parks and Trail Plan before you consider it for adoption at the next regular council meeting. You also receive an update on the White River Restoration Project. And lastly, we'll have a discussion regarding the Public Works Operations Facility and how it ties into the sale of the Sumner Meadows Golf Course. At the May 20th regular council meeting, We are going to start a little bit earlier at 4:30 PM with a tour of the White River Restoration Project site. Any public that wishes to join us, there'll be some information on our website about where to meet us out in the field at 4:30 that day. At the regular meeting, which will start at 6 o'clock, you'll have a proclamation for National Public Works Week, as well as a presentation from our lobbyist, Bill Clark, regarding the 2024 legislative session and what to also start keeping our eyes out for the next legislative cycle in 2025. The resolution accepting the Public Works Trust Fund loan that Deputy Mayor Cole just spoke about is on the agenda, as well as a resolution to reject all bids for the wayfinding signage project, a resolution approving a state grant for the Rainier View Covered Court, excuse me, as well as a consultant supplement agreement for the 166 widening project. You also consider adopting the 2024 Parks and Trail Plan update and an ordinance creating a capital reserve fund. Just a reminder, we do have a special study session tonight to discuss the Ryan House. So after the mayor adjourns the meeting, we need about 5 minutes to reset the room and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you. All right, for me, I'm excited to have almost a full boat. We have one on vacation. When she gets back, all the chairs will be full. It's been a long time, so I'm excited for that. Really pleased that these people chose to make the hard decisions, and it's not always easy sitting up here, especially making decisions some people don't like. So happy for that, and that's about it. Thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned at 7:07, and we will go into study session
About 5 minutes.
in about 5 minutes.